I am proud, first of all, to introduce Tom Gallagher, who has worked with our branch in the Defend Glasgow Services campaign and the Glasgow Care Crisis, and he's going to speak about the terrible cuts that took place in Glasgow against GAMH and the fight that Unison and Tom and his colleagues all have put up to try and save these services.
Thanks very much, David, and first of all I want to thank the organisers of Swan for inviting me to speak. It's really been a wonderful conference, it's been very inspiring. I want to give thanks to Ian Ferguson as well for encouraging me to speak. I'm a service user at the Glasgow Association for Mental Health, and I'm also a member of the Unite Union. I'm not any different from anybody else in this room. It is a fact that an awful lot of you here at some point in your life will have to go and seek help for mental health issues. I've suffered from depression on and off for a whole number of years, but in 2009 and 2010 I had what you could probably call a really serious breakdown. Between the September and the February, which about 20 weeks, I was in hospital for 14 of them with 3 separate admissions. Every time I got discharged, I started taking overdoses, I got readmitted. It ended up, by the end of the 14 weeks, I ended up having 8 sessions of ECT. So when I was eventually getting discharged, and this is the point about GAMH, is that when I was getting discharged, the consultant psychiatrist said to me that she was willing to discharge me, but really on the understanding of 2 things. One, I wouldn't be going back to work. That's because, in her opinion, I wasn't fit anymore to be a psychiatric nurse, which I've been doing for 25 years. And the other one was that she said to me, you're not as well as you think you are, and you are going to need support. And at that point she says, you're going to be short of money, so I'm going to get somebody from GAMH to come up and help you sort out your finances. And that happened within 2 days. The woman came up from GAMH, she sat me down and she filled in the form for me, and she ensured that I got my full benefits. And this is quite important, because the service that GAMH provides, and I've been a member there for 5 years, it's more than likely I won't be after May the 31st because of the circumstances of what happened, but GAMH is actually a rather large mental health service. It's got over 120 workers, it deals with over 1,000 service users per week. It runs groups, it runs all sorts of social activities that involve people, and an awful lot of people who are at GAMH, including myself, since the time that they've been admitted, an awful lot of them have never been readmitted because they start to engage with society. If you'd have seen me 4 or 5 years ago, then you wouldn't have recognised the person I am today, and I'm able to get up, and that's because of all the help and support I got. And it's all of a practical nature, and it's all very flexible. The 2 major things that GAMH did for me was to re-engage me with society, but also to give me practical support for the things that I couldn't do, the things I can do now. They actually sorted out my housing. I actually got a really nice flat because my support worker was really confident, and he said to the housing officer, you're not going to send him there. He is going here, here or here. He just put his foot down, and that's what I got. Now, late last year, what happened was that Glasgow District Council, which is a Labour controlled council, made an announcement that they were going to cut 40% of the budget from GAMH, 880,000. To cut a long story short, what that has meant, because we've lost the fight, and I'm going to go into that in a minute, we have lost, what it's going to mean initially is that at least 30 workers are going to be made redundant. And the 30 workers are some of the most experienced, some of them are ex-social workers, some of them are ex-psychiatric nurses, etc. They're going to lose their jobs, and all that expertise is going to be gone. I'd like you to understand what it means. I went to do a meeting with some service users, and there's a woman there called Elizabeth, who's 78 years old, very physically frail. She's got a Zimmer frame, and when we were talking, the tears were just running down her cheeks, and she says, what am I going to do? I've been at GAMH for 18 years. What am I going to do? And it's really difficult when the workers were trying to explain what might happen, because they're not quite sure yet, but they know that the service is going to get cut. Now what we did, the campaign that we launched initially was very successful, and it was a campaign between the unison, between the workforce and between the service users and the service users' families, and we had really, really good support. We had 2 big rallies, and this was the thing that brought it home to me, because within 3 weeks, could I get a wee drop of water? Within 3 weeks, what we done was collected 10,000 signatures, thank you, for a petition. In 3 weeks. But when we took that petition up to the councillors, they wouldn't even walk down the stairs and accept it from us. And it's become apparent, because there are a whole number of us in this city who are actually sick and tired of looking at the city chambers and sick and tired of looking at George Square. We're never out of the place campaigning. Services getting cut, services getting slashed. Only a few weeks ago, 29 million cut from the budget in Glasgow City Council. It's not that we made mistakes at GAMH. I don't believe that we made mistakes. I think what was apparent was that we didn't understand the scale of the problem. The GAMH workers felt that they couldn't take industrial action because they weren't in dispute with their employer. As such, it was actually the council. And the other thing that I thought was lacking as well was that some of us made a suggestion that, as well as campaigning against the City Council, we actually went to Holyrood as well and made it a Scottish issue and actually said, look, it's only 880,000, you know, we've got to stop these cuts to the services. But I have to say, we have lost, and there's no way around that. People are walking up the road with their P45s, but that doesn't mean actually that the people feel completely defeated in that exercise, because the people who were involved at GAMH are now involved in the other campaigns as well. We're now involved in Glasgow Care Crisis, and I'm not going to say very much about that, because the speaker at the end of the day is Marion Nisbet, is a good friend and colleague, and she's the secretary of that campaign, and she's put in loads and loads of work. I mean, it's a really quite successful campaign already. Our organising meetings are up to 30 people. And we organised a care crisis conference of over 100 people, and Marion will probably talk about that. But I was wanting to say a wee bit about mental health in itself. Actually, one of the service users at GAMH gave me a big list of figures, and unfortunately I can't find it. But I'm sure some of you know these figures, but you won't know some of the others. At least 1 in 4 of us who go to see a GP as a mental health appointment. People estimate it's actually more than that now because of the stresses and strains of modern life. But actually, the mental health figures for Glasgow are so bad that you probably won't even believe it. The mental health figures for Glasgow are 2.5 times greater than anywhere else in Scotland, and actually 3.5 times greater than what happens perhaps in the more affluent areas like South East London. And I think that's why the response was so strong, is because if there's one thing that is better in terms of mental health, it's actually, I think, the stigma's less. I think we all can speak about it now quite openly. I think that is very healthy. But the way the world is at the moment and the stresses that people feel, and I know that when I started to become unwell, it was because of the stresses and strains of being a senior psychiatric nurse, trying to run wards with not enough staff. We're trying to work 12-hour shifts, which are actually 14-hour shifts, you know, the time you travel and you get up and all the rest of it. And I'm sure all of you feel exactly the same way. As I say, we're campaigning all the time, and my colleagues here from Unison, from the Homeless Persons Unit, and that's the direction that we have to take. They're on indefinite strike, and we have to support them. I wanted to end up by saying a wee bit about the political situation in Scotland, because I thought Jerry Mooney's presentation yesterday was very, very, very good. During the referendum, it became apparent that this wasn't a fight per se for a nationalist Scotland. It really became apparent from all the different meetings that were going on. And it was actually quite astonishing to go to meetings all over the shop, everywhere, small towns, big cities. And really the feeling was that somehow or other we have to get ourselves out of this. All the talk was about fighting back against austerity and keeping the Tories out of Scotland. And the thing was really quite astonishing towards the end, when everything was getting ramped up. In the last 2 days, for example, of the referendum, I found it quite astonishing to be interviewed by RT television in Dublin, being interviewed by newspapers from New York and Germany, and this was happening all over the place. There were television cameras all over the place, and the eyes were on what was happening in Scotland. I think what we have to understand is another thing that Jerry said as well is about the word class. That was very evident during the referendum campaign. Actually, I've got a quote here. It's about yourselves. It's Michael Gove referring to social work, and I think we have to understand what he's actually saying. He says, in too many cases, social work training involves idealistic students being told that the individuals with whom they will work have been disempowered by society. This analysis is sadly as widespread as it is pernicious. It robs individuals of the power of agency and breaks the link between an individual's actions and the consequences. And this is a bit I really like. It says, it risks explaining away substance abuse, domestic violence, and personal irresponsibility rather than doing away with them. And what he's actually saying, it's all our own fault. This is a major assault on all of us. Every single person here, whether you're an academic, a worker in social work, a service user, or a carer, we're all being attacked. It's an ideological attack on all of us, and it's incumbent on us to fight back. We have to support every struggle that takes place. And I just want to finish on this. I think really, if we recognise what's happening, I mean, for example, if you take GAMH, right, now we all know that if you make cuts to GAMH, everybody knows that there are going to be more people seeking other services. It's not as if the money is going to be saved. People are going to be going to the GP, they're going to be admitted to acute admission wards, etc., etc. So the burden is going to fall on another party service, which is the National Health Service. What I think the Tories and the apologists in the Labour Party who actually go along with it is that what would really happen in the long term would be that they would dismantle the welfare state. Things would be privatised. Everybody's referred to it. And so if we accept it's an ideological attack on us, then it's incumbent upon us to have an ideological framework in which we can fight back. And I would just end on this. For all of us, we need a political alternative to this. If the people in Greece can form Syriza and elect a left-wing government, then I'm sure that we can do the same. Thank you.